Continuing our reading in the World and Thorinn by Damon Knight. Today is Chapter 7, Section 1. And Chapter 7 is titled, How Thorinn Was the Guest of Demons and How He Repaid Their Hospitality. In the year of the broken branches, an untested warrior of the clan of Blue Snake pushed his sister into a thorn tree and wounded her grievously, whereupon she cursed him, saying, "May the sky demons come for you." The young warrior unluckily replied, "This for you and the sky demons as well." A year and a day after, two sky demons entered the lodge of the Blue Snake in the guise of a bear-skinned person and a talking gourd. They were bound and tormented by Blue Snake and other persons of his lodge, but escaped by magic arts and slew many before they returned to the sky. Afterward, the clan of Blue Snake, being weakened by these slayings, fell easy prey to the clan of Break Skulls, who took the women captive, slew and ate the others after tormenting them for 5 nights and days. Thus the lodge of Blue Snake fell vacant, and being an unlucky place, was not tenanted again, save by moths and death beetles. Thornton found himself in a thicket of tall canes with leafy tops, which crossed over his head and shut out the sky. A bird was singing somewhere not far away. Sprawled among the canes, Thornton listened with such pleasure for a moments he forgot what he was about. When he turned to look back at the shield, he found in its place a gray round boulder half buried in the earth. Thornton knelt to examine this, pushed against it, but it would not move. He began to feel dizzy again and thought of lying down to sleep, but there was no room for that here, between the canes and the boulder. He got up and began to climb, finding himself so light that he could ascend to the very tip of a cane. As he emerged from the thicket, clinging to the leafy top, with only his head protruding from it, he was looking into a remote tangle of curved, milky stems, as if he had somehow got into the roots of the canes instead of their tops. The illusion was so strong that he was dizzy once more and had to shut his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, it was no better until he looked down along the dwindling stem of the cane. All around him at a lower level were the flat green tops of other canes, and by keeping them in view, he was able to persuade himself that the world was the right way up. He saw now that the canes, tall as they had seemed before, were like grasses at the feet of those immense tangled growths, whose shapes he could not quite make out. The sky was invisible, somewhere far overhead. Once he thought he saw a flicker of motion deep in the tangle of stems, but it did not come again. The air was still and cool. While he hung there, a silent gloom rushed over the landscape. One moment the world was full of color. Next, the light dwindled and went out behind him. In the blackness, Thornton clung, without up or down or any direction to guide him. Shortly, however, his eyes began to grow accustomed to the darkness, and he could make out the same enigmatic tangled growth as before. But all were transformed in the green skylight that filtered through the branches. A cool air had sprung up. Somewhere in the distance, insects began to shrill, and there were other sounds. In the tangle that spread wide around him, some of the wavering branches and stems were the color of cheese, some black as beetles. The hollows between them were purple, crow's wing blue, deepest green. Thornton heard a slithering movement not far away. Then wings hummed past his head, and he ducked. He tried to slide back down the stem, but at first moved so slowly that he felt almost as if he were going the wrong way, up into the sky. He relaxed the grip of his legs, but still moved with uncanny slowness. And in the end, he had to propel himself downward, hand under hand. When he was beneath the shelter of the cane tops, he came to a halt. Now that he was quiet, he could hear faint, enigmatic sounds from below. Rustlings, clicks. They made him uneasy, and he began to wish that he had been quieter a moment ago. He slid down, silent except for the whisper of his hands on the stem. Now he was near enough to touch the next cane. He leaned out, grasped it, and swung over. The cane dipped slowly, grating against another. He transferred to that, and then he had to kick away to prevent the cane he had just left from whipping him off again. He stopped to listen. The sounds below were nearer. Click, rattle, scrape. The stem he lay on began to vibrate. Thornton stared into the shadows. Something was crawling up the stem. He saw the green dots of its eyes. The cane shivered again. The thing was coming closer with surprising speed. Now he could make out that it had a thick, dark body, a confusion of moving, knobby legs like a cricket's. Thornton rolled over and began to stand up, meaning to see if he could shake the stalk until the thing fell off. But he had forgotten how slowly things moved here, and while his feet were still drifting in a leisurely way back toward the cane, the insect was suddenly in front of his nose. It had sharp-mouthed parts that gleamed as they opened wide. His back stiffened. He kicked out and hung in mid-air while the cane swayed above him. He saw the dark thing leap, felt it strike his legs like a sack of meal. Then a stabbing pain as its jaws gripped him through the leather. He had his sword out, swung and struck. Another pain. He had gashed his own leg, and the insect thing cut in two, went spinning away. Now the cane was drifting toward him, a little to one side. It dipped, touched him. He tried awkwardly to turn and seize it, but he went off again, thrashing his arms. Now the spinning world steadied. It was moving past his feet. The dark meadow came nearer. He bent his knees and staggered, but only with surprise. The shock of landing was no more than that of stepping off a waist-high stone. His good leg began to hurt. He put his fingers to it, found a gash in the leather and a little blood. He straightened, shifting hands on the sword again. Something moved past him. There was a thump in the grass not far away, then another nearer. Thornton did not stop to think. He leaped. And that's the end of section 1.